Hi friends, my name is Mailynn and welcome back to my channel. I'm a flutist, performer, and music teacher located in the city of Kamloops, British Columbia. This is my channel where we do all things flute, so thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, we're going to be doing the Canadian National Anthem known as O Canada, so if you're interested, then just keep on watching. As always, if you have any questions about the video, please drop them in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. Also, if you have any issues when it comes to practicing, feel free to check out my free practice guide, also located in the description down below. It gives you 8 really easy steps to follow to help guide your practice sessions. Alright, so let's just get right into today's video. So as I have done previously with a few of these other national anthems, I will be taking the score from 8notes.com. There will be a link in the description there for you to click on it for the score with the piano accompaniment if you're interested. As always, I just want to mention that I'm not sponsored or anything. I just really do appreciate their work that they do on that website. And so I just want to make sure that you have that resource there for you if you ever need that. Alright, and I'm going to be doing a direct transcription here, so this may be a little bit trickier for beginner players who don't have too much experience, so I would highly recommend this melody for players with at least 1 to 3 years of playing. Alright, so I'm going to put up my transcription on the screen right over here. So we're going to go through our first 6 starter bits before we get into clapping and counting, and then finally playing through the piece. So number 1, we're going to be looking at our key signature. So we're going to look in between our treble clef and our time signature to see if we have any accidentals there. And we don't see any there, so that means we can either be in C major or its relative minor key, A minor. So how you can look for either of those key signatures is number 1, you're going to look at the first and the last note to see if you can have the tonic of either of those keys. You're going to be looking for C or A. So we don't start on a C, however we do end on a C, so that's a high indication that we are in C major. So we're going to see if we can find any indication of the minor key here to see if there are any switches in there or if it actually might be in the minor key. So how you find the minor key, first of all, is we're going to go down 3 letter names, or you can alternatively go up 6 letter names. So starting on C major, we're going to go down 3, so C, B, A. So then once we know the tonic of the minor key, so A, what we're going to do is we're going to go down 1 semitone. So you can either do this on a keyboard, for example, or if you remember, 1 semitone from A is going to be G sharp. So we're going to see if you can find any G sharps as well as any of the raised 6 as well, because that can also indicate the melodic minor key. So we do have some F sharps and some G sharps in there. However, in the way that they're written, they're just used as like a chromatic semitone going up. So they don't really have any significance when it comes to the key signature here. So I would say that we are in C major. Number 2, we're going to be looking at our time signature. So here we have that nice C written in. So C stands for common time, which equals 4 over 4. As a reminder, the top number of the time signature tells us how many beats we have per measure, and the bottom number tells us what note type those beats are. So the first number 4 there tells us that there are 4 beats per measure, and the bottom number tells us that they are quarter notes. So we have 4 quarter notes per measure. You can always check that by looking at the piece as well to see if you can find any bar that has 4 quarter notes in them. Number 3, we're going to be looking at our tempo indication. So I don't have anything written here at the top. So we're going to just take a approximate tempo here from listening to the national anthem in a few different versions. I've come to a quarter note equals 90. So when I clap and count as well as I do the performance with the flute, I will be doing it at a quarter note equals 90. However, if you find it's ever too fast at any point, you can always go back into the playback settings and set it to a slower playback speed, and that will slow down the tempo so you can practice it at whatever speed you like. Number 4, we're going to be looking at our dynamics. So here at the very beginning we have 2 Fs, which stands for fortissimo. So it means very loud. So essentially we have that written all the way up until bar 8, where we have a mezzo forte written underneath the 4th beat. Then we don't have anything again written until we have the main theme coming back in bar 17 there with fortissimo again, all the way until the end. So I would recommend, if you do want to add some more dynamics in there, if you feel like it's a little bit not enough, you can definitely go ahead and do that. That would definitely make your version unique to you. Number 5, we're going to be looking at our articulation, and at a quick glance, I don't see any slurs or anything like that, so just make sure that you have a nice supported ha whenever you play the note with a very gentle ta, just to give it a little bit of clarity at the beginning. And then number 6, we're going to be looking at our roadmap, so we're going to see if you have any decapos or repeat signs, and I don't see any, so we're just reading it from top to bottom. Alright, so now we're going to get into the clap and count here. So just before we get into clapping and counting, just make sure that you do have the counting for any of those dotted rhythms correct, because it is very important to get that, or else you kind of don't get the correct feel of the national anthem here. So I just want to point out, especially on bar 1 here, we do have the dotted quarter and eighth, so making sure that you are counting that right. So it would be 3 and 4, and then the and of 4 is on that 8th note. So that comes up quite a lot. And then I want to bring your attention also to bar 8 as well. So then we have this similar thing here, but with a dotted 8th note and 16th. So it would be 4, E, and A. So again, the same kind of subdivision there, just within 1 beat instead of 2. And always make sure that if you feel like you are not quite certain about the rhythms, that you write it in at the top so that you can count it out loud while you're clapping it to kind of solidify that rhythm for you. Alright, so now we're going to clap and count. So this is at a quarter note equals 90. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, rest. 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, rest. 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3. 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3. 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, rest. 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3. 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3. 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, rest, rest. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, rest, rest. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, rest. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, rest, rest. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, rest. Alright, very good. So again, as I mentioned before, if you find that it is way too fast for you, totally go into the playback settings and slow it down to a tempo where you're not making very many mistakes or no mistakes at all. And then as you slowly get more comfortable practicing it, then you can use the metronome or the playback settings again to make it faster until you're at the tempo that you want to be at. Alright, so now we are going to play it with the flute. So make sure that you do have all of the correct letter names in there, so you can always, again, as I mentioned before with the rhythm, so you can always write in those letter names in case you're not quite confident with the notes. That's totally okay. It took me a few years to get used to reading music before I didn't have to write in the letter names. And then I would also recommend that you cross-reference it with the fingering chart that I've included in every single one of my videos down in the description there, just to make sure that you are playing it with all the correct fingerings. And I would also highly recommend circling or even highlighting or coloring any of those accidentals in there, just in case they kind of come out and you forget them before you actually get to playing the piece. Okay, so now I'm going to play it with the flutes. So again, a quarter note equals 90. 1, 2, 3. Nice! So, if you find that tricky, make sure that you go down, slow it down until you get it to a tempo where you're not making very many to no mistakes, and then slowly work and find those little spots where you're having troubles. My recommendation when it comes to practicing is making sure that you always go through these 3 practice bits. So number 1, you're going to want to look at your embouchure, so making sure that you have the right shape and no extra tension, so you don't want to have any smile lines or anything like that. You can always check that by looking through a mirror when you're practicing, as uncomfortable as that is. It's always good as a reminder just to see how we are playing the flute with our embouchure, with our lips. Number 2, of course, you're going to be looking at your breath support, so making sure that you have enough air in order to get those higher notes especially, and then making sure that you have the correct air speed. So I like to use temperature of air, so when we get into the higher range, for example, the air tends to be a little bit colder. When we get into the lower register, it can tend to be a little bit warmer. So making sure that you do have the correct amount of air to get those notes. And then number 3, I would be making sure that you look at your fingers. So making sure that you have your good finger technique. Again, you can always look at a mirror or even ask a friend to take a look at your playing when you're playing, just to see how your fingers are moving, or if you're having any issues with fingers moving from note to note. Alright, so that's just going to be it for today's video. As always, if you have any questions or video requests, feel free to drop them in the comment section. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. Also, be sure to check out my free practice guide if you have any issues with practicing. Again, linked in the description there. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, happy fluting!